At 7:15 on the morning of March 11th, 2009, Michelle Hensley was running her road grader along the Calvert Road spur, drainage berm, a job she had done for 11 years without incident. The blade caught something solid in the compacted earth. She stopped the machine and looked down. A steel-toed work boot, size 11, sat exposed in the turned soil. The foot was still inside it. That boot did not belong to the berm. Forensic analysis would confirm it within days. The soil clinging to George Tillman's remains matched the compost windrows behind the equipment shed, 400 yards away. Not the fill material of the berm itself. Someone had moved him. And the question that would take investigators months to answer was not only who had done it, but how many times that person had done it before. This led investigators to a man named Lloyd Thorpe. The answer was 6 more times. George Tillman was 31 years old in the summer of 2007. He had been working seasonal beet harvests at Calvert Ag Partners in Trego County for 3 consecutive years. He was not from there. He was from the Nebraska Panhandle, and he came to Stillwater Flats every season because the work was steady and the pay was reliable. The people who knew him described a man with a specific kind of discipline. He ran every morning without fail, out of the labor camp at 6:15, 2 miles to a collapsed water tower from the 1980s, and back, always in his steel-toed work boots because that was what he had. He was back in camp by 6:45. Art Devlin, the camp foreman at Calvert Ag, could set a watch by it. George was saving money. He had found a photograph somewhere, a 1990 4 red Chevrolet pickup, the exact truck he wanted, and he kept it tucked inside the paperback on his bunk. He was 3 paychecks away from having enough. He was last seen on September 14th, 2007. His sister, Pam Wicker, filed a missing persons report in October of that year. The report was logged, reviewed and closed as a voluntary departure. George Tillman was an adult, a seasonal worker without a fixed address. The record reflected a judgment that he had simply moved on. Pam did not believe that. She knew her brother. She did not leave without calling. He did not walk away from 3 paychecks and a photograph of a red truck tucked in a book. But missing persons files have categories, and in Trego County, George's file settled into one of them and did not move for 17 months. Stillwater Flats is a low agricultural basin. Sugar beet and onion operations, flat ground, wide sky, seasonal labor rotating in and out with the harvests. The workforce is largely transient by necessity. Men and women come for the season, send money home, and leave when the work ends. Some years they come back, some years they do not. That rhythm, ordinary and unremarkable, was exactly what Lloyd Thorpe understood. Thorpe was 44 years old, based in Winsett, 22 miles from the Calvert Ag operation. He ran a one-man business, irrigation repair, light construction, general agricultural maintenance. He was known in the area as competent, pleasant, and unhurried. Farmers called him when something needed fixing, and they did not want complications. He had documented access to Calvert Ag 7 times in the 18 months before George Tillman disappeared. The farm's owner, Dennis Calvert, had started keeping a handwritten maintenance ledger after a liability dispute, a routine precaution that would become, years later, one of the most consequential records in a criminal investigation. In February of 2008, Thorpe's name appeared in that ledger one more time. Waterline repair, East Side. The notation was unremarkable. What no one knew, yet, was that a drainage improvement contract had been signed for Calvert Ag. That spring, a project that's, if executed, would have required excavating the compost windrow area behind the equipment shed. The project was contracted. It was never carried out. George Tillman's sister, was still waiting for an answer. A photograph of the red Chevrolet was still on his bunk and in a drainage berm 400 yards from where he had been buried. The earth was slowly moving toward the surface. George ran every morning in those same boots. 6:15 to 6:45, a 2-mile loop from the bunkhouse to a collapsed 1980s water tower and back. His foreman, Art Devlin, had watched him leave and return so many times the rhythm had become background noise. Art knew the route. He knew the time. He also knew that on September 14th, 2007, George had not come back. Nobody had explained that. Not adequately. The first thing forensic investigators established at the berm was the soil itself. The fill material at the drainage site had a specific composition. Loose, sandy, the kind of material brought in for grade work. But the soil clinging to the remains told a different story. The clay to sand ratio was wrong for the berm. The decomposed organic content was wrong. What that soil matched was the compost windrow area behind Calvert Ag's equipment shed, 400 yards from where the body surfaced. George Tillman had not been buried at the berm. He had been buried somewhere else, then moved. That single fact, soil in the wrong place, was the first image that would not resolve. Someone had carried a body across 400 yards of farm ground and placed it inside drainage fill. Not abandoned it, placed it, with intention and with knowledge of that specific landscape. The question was, whose knowledge? Sandra Obi was a records clerk at the Trigo County Sheriff's Office. In the 2 weeks after the discovery, she and lead investigator Chad Parker began compiling a cross-county missing persons list, pulling reports not just from Trigo, but from Pell County to the north and Whitmore County to the east. What came back was 6 names. The oldest report dated to 2001. Every single case had been closed with the same administrative notation: voluntary departure. 6 men and women, gone from seasonal agricultural work, all officially explained as having simply left. Parker had a property crimes background. 2 years in criminal investigations. He had never worked a homicide. Still, 6 names across 3 counties, all closed as voluntary departures, all from farm labor operations. That image had a shape to it that did not match the notation. He brought it to Sheriff Tom Braddock on March 26. Braddock was skeptical. The notation was standard for transient labor cases. People left. They did not always tell anyone. He did not immediately authorize a task force. That hesitation lasted 2 days. On March 28th, Braddock authorized it. What changed was the ledger. Dennis Calvert had started keeping a handwritten maintenance log for Calvert Ag after a liability dispute, a precaution with no investigative purpose at the time. When investigators cross-referenced the 6 missing persons' names against farms in the region, 1 name appeared in service and financial records connected to 3 of those locations: Lloyd Thorpe, irrigation repair, light construction, agricultural maintenance, competent, pleasant, unhurried, called when something needed fixing without complications. His name was in the Calvert Ag ledger 7 times across 18 months. The February 2008 entry read, waterline repair, east side, unrelated to the drainage zone, unremarkable on its face, but soil analysis comparisons had already begun across 2 additional missing persons cases. The burial profiles matched, different farms, different counties, same soil signature, compost-rich, organic fill from agricultural windrow areas. Someone who moved across those properties regularly, someone who knew where the windrows were and where the grade work went. And there was something else. A drainage improvement contract had been signed for Calvert Ag in spring 2008. If that project had gone forward, it would have required excavating the compost area behind the equipment shed. The contract was signed. The crew was scheduled. The project was never carried out. Nobody, at the time, had thought to ask why. On May 7th, 2009, 18 days after Lloyd Thorpe's arrest, a man named Kevin Ostrander contacted the Trego County Sheriff's Office through his own attorney. Ostrander was serving an unrelated fraud sentence. He had shared housing with Thorpe at some point, and he had something to say. He came forward on his own. No deal had been offered. No one had gone looking for him. Over 3 evenings, Ostrander reported Thorpe had spoken, not anxiously, not in bursts. Thorpe had been matter-of-fact about it, the way a man might describe a repair job that had gotten complicated. He told Ostrander he had been doing it since 2001. He said the first one was an accident. He said the rest were a problem he was solving one at a time. And he said he had chosen people who would be explained away. That phrase, explained away, it recontextualized everything Sandra Obi's list had found. 6 names, 6 voluntary departures. The administrative notation had not been a bureaucratic failure. It had been a design feature, not of the system, but of the man who understood the system and selected for it. Transient agricultural workers in seasonal rotations, no fixed address, no permanent employer, families sometimes distant, sometimes absent. When they disappeared, the paperwork said they left, because that was the most plausible explanation, because no one had reason to connect one closed case in Trego County to another closed case in Trego County to another in Whitmore. Thorpe had not hidden the bodies because he panicked. He had moved them because he understood drainage schedules. He knew which berm was being built and when. He knew which soil would compact and which would shift. A man who repaired irrigation systems and graded agricultural land knew those things the way a plumber knows where water travels. The February 2008 Ledger entry waterline, east side, unrelated to the drainage zone, landed differently now. Thorpe had been at Calvert Ag 1 month before the spring drainage contract was scheduled to break ground. He had been on the property. He had seen what was planned, and then the drainage project had stopped, quietly. No record of why. On May 12, 2009, Lloyd Thorpe gave a formal recorded confession. He named 7 victims. George Tillman was among them. The 7th name was James Poole, 40 years old, an itinerant worker. No missing persons report had ever been filed for Poole. He was identified by dental records from a burial site on a decommissioned farm in Pell County. There was no family waiting for an answer. There was no open file. Without the confession, James Poole might never have had a name attached to what happened to him. 7 people, one of them invisible to every database that was supposed to find him. Picture the compost windrow behind the equipment shed at 2 a.m. No lights, no traffic on the Calvert Road spur, flat ground and wide sky. A man who has been on this property 7 times knows exactly where the grade stakes are, where the fill ends and the organic material begins, where nothing will be disturbed until someone decides to improve the drainage. If you build the case around opportunity and access, Thorpe fits it perfectly. 7 ledger entries. Service records placing him near 3 of the 6 missing persons' last known locations. Soil profiles matching burial sites across multiple properties. A drainage contract that halted before it could expose what was underneath. But here is the thing that the evidence record forces you to sit with. Opportunity and access explain presence. They do not explain selection. The selection is where the evidence and Ostrander's account converge on something more deliberate. Thorpe told Ostrander he chose people who would be explained away. Cross-reference that against the 6 names on Obi's list. All seasonal workers, all transient, all closed as voluntary departures. The oldest case dated to 2001. the year Thorpe said it started. That alignment is not coincidental. It is operational, one scenario worth testing. Thorpe identified targets opportunistically, killing when access presented itself. And the administrative pattern of voluntary departures was simply a lucky consequence of the victim pool he happened to work near. That version collapses the moment you put it against James Poole. Poole was an itinerant worker, no employer of record, no fixed address, no family contact who might file a report. No report was ever filed. He was, in practical terms, the most invisible person in the case file, and he was one of the 7, not an outlier. A confirmation. The selection was not opportunistic. It was calibrated. The strongest reading of the evidence, the one the trial record supports, and the confession corroborates, is that Thorpe built a method around the administrative gap that seasonal agricultural labor creates. The soil movement, the drainage knowledge, the halted contract, those were logistics. The logistics served a prior decision about who could disappear without generating a cross-county pattern. Renee Castillo, a state cold case analyst, identified a 1999 case in Garfield County, 2 counties west, with method-specific similarities. Her analysis noted that the Garfield County case predated Thorpe's documented presence in the Stillwater Flats area by 2 years. Thorpe was never charged in that case. His confession did not include that victim. The physical evidence had degraded. Garfield County reopened the investigation as formally linked, but the record stops there. Whether the method began before Stillwater Flats, or whether the similarity is convergence rather than continuation, that question remains open. What the record closes is this: 7 victims named, 7 counts proven, 1 man convicted on all of them. The logistics had been meticulous. The selection had been deliberate. And for years, the system had given every disappearance the same 2-word answer: voluntary departure. What this case documents is not only what one man did, it documents what the system allowed to remain invisible. 6 names closed without follow-up. An administrative category, voluntary departure, that functioned as a lid on any further question. Seasonal workers moving across county lines with no central record. An investigative infrastructure that had to be assembled from scratch, because the gaps between jurisdictions were wider than anyone had formally acknowledged. James Poole had no one to file a report. He entered the record only through a dental comparison on a decommissioned farm in Pell County. His existence as a victim was confirmed by science, not by any system designed to protect him. There is something in that fact that resists easy resolution. 7 men were convicted into the record. 7 lives were reduced for years to a filing status that required nothing further. The conviction closed the criminal question. It did not close the question of how the system learned to see these men, only after the evidence forced it to. George Tillman had a photograph of a truck he never bought. He had a sister who did not accept the 2-word answer. He had a morning run. He did every day in the dark. He deserved to be looked for while he was still missing. This show is made by Oba Media.